Scottie in fourth year seems like he has already peaked. Cade becoming All-NBA and Mobley is Defensive Player of the Year. Meanwhile, Scottie still doesn't know what he wants to be, shooting 20% from three. Welcome to Amateur Answers. It's a new series on the channel where I read your comments and react to them. If you want a chance for your comment to be featured on next week's version of this episode, which comes out on Saturday, then make sure you comment something down below. And while you're there, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. So first comment here, I already read, comes from Holanho, I'm not really sure, but Scottie in fourth year seems like he has already peaked. Well, yes, Cade is All-NBA looking like it this season, or potentially going to be All-NBA this season. Evan Mobley has been Defensive Player of the Year this season, yes, but like it's important to remember, no, it's not All-NBA, no, it's not Defensive Player of the Year, but Scottie Barnes was an All-Star last season. So evidently this season, which wasn't as good as last season, like this season is obviously not his peak, seeing as he has already been better than this. And also, like, even despite it, let's say even if this was the best season so far, how on earth are we talking about a 23-year-old as if he has already peaked? Like, he is nowhere near his prime years. Like, prime years for a basketball player are typically like 27 to 30 years old. Sometimes, like, maybe more athletic players are like 26 to 29 years old. But, like, then there's examples like Giannis, where he's approaching his early 30s, and he's still super athletic and still, like, in his prime years. So, like, to say Scottie Barnes has already peaked is just an asinine statement. Definitely has more room to grow. And the 20% from three stuff, I mean, listen, it's not like it's a good 3-point percentage, but Barnes shot, let's give him a bit more credit. It was 27% from three. It wasn't like he was completely like useless from three, 20%. It was 27%. So not really giving Barnes the full credit there. But like as far as peaking already, like we've seen Barnes be better than this, and he's still very young. So definitely for me has not peaked as of yet. Next one comes from Mikey James. This is on Scottie Barnes as well. Says, what's people's obsession with Barnes being a point guard? It's something that I noted from the previous amateur answers where, again, people just want to force Barnes to be a point guard. Mikey James does not like that. He's not a point guard, and we've seen the issues already. He gets his pocket picked too many times and lacks the handles to play that position full time. Let's make Jokic a point guard too while we're at it, because he has okay handles and can pass the ball well. There's more to being a good point guard. If Barnes is your full-time point guard, you're not getting far in the playoffs. I don't know why they can't just play Barnes like Miami plays Bam Adebayo. There's some kind of obsession with him being some kind of point forward, and it seems like Alvin Williams and Vince Carter are the only ones that's screaming just to play him in the key, and enough of the nonsense. Scottie spent most of last season just firing away at the three-point line, even when he had smaller players in him, could have just post them up and got to the basket. So a lot of this I really do agree with here. You know, maybe in like the first season, maybe a little bit of his second season of Scottie Barnes, it was kind of like, well, clearly he's got some handles. He's, 6'8", 6'9", 7'2", 7'3" wingspan. Like, if we can mold this player into a point guard, like that's very exciting for the team. Just imagine how good that player can be for the team. But the more we've seen of Scottie Barnes, yes, I do agree, the handles aren't quite tight enough, but something that Mikey James didn't mention here that is like vital for a point guard to have, they need to be able to bend the defense out of pick and rolls in two different ways. The primary way you want a point guard to bend the defense is out of the pick and roll. You can't have his check going under the screen, cheating under the screen. They have to go over the screen in fear of your pull-up jumper. That is huge to creating advantages for your defense because it gives that point guard a little bit more space out of the pick and roll. It causes rotations, gives that point guard space. As I said, if they're going under the screen, they're cheating. It's not giving that point guard extra time. It's not creating advantages. It's not just getting rotations started for the defense. So it's easier for the defenders to play defense against that sort of unit with that sort of point guard. Now, the counter to that, if you don't have the pull-up jumper, point guards like, let's say, Ja Morant, not the best pull-up jumper for a point guard, but fantastic at slashing, fantastic at getting right to the rim and finishing efficiently there. Barnes doesn't really have either of the things. He definitely doesn't have the pull-up jumper, and he hasn't really shown that ability to slash to the rim quickly using that space to his advantage. So for me, for the point guard, doesn't have enough where the defender is worried enough when they're defending Barnes as the ball handler at pick and roll situations. But as Mikey James said, that doesn't mean Barnes can't be a fantastic player. I'm not really sure that Bam Adebayo is the best comparison. Like, I think you're limiting Barnes by having him primarily as a post-up player. I still think a lot of perimeter play is necessary to get the most out of Scottie Barnes. It just doesn't need to be in that primary ball handling role, which is labeled as the point guard. Can there be some sets where he's handling the ball? Absolutely, but a little bit more down low play for Scottie Barnes, I think, is what is in order to get the most out of the player. So I do agree there. Next comment comes from Troy Knights with a bunch of extra letters I don't care to read. It says, the Toronto media has made their point. They want Scottie traded. I can't wait till he's clear the best player on the team and we make the playoffs. Basketball is a team sport, and I want to give Scottie the chance to play with legit players. I can't wait to bring up these comments every game about trying to trade him. So this is in reaction to the portion of the video that talked about trading Scottie for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Like, if Giannis Antetokounmpo is available, do you have to trade Scottie Barnes? Like, are you willing to trade Scottie Barnes? So I don't really know if the media has made their point, like, as a whole. To be honest, I haven't really seen a lot of stories suggesting the Raptors should be trading Scottie Barnes, so I don't necessarily agree with that. I feel like Raptors media in general, I'm not like super locked into it, but I don't get the vibe that there's a desire to see Scottie Barnes traded. To me, it feels like there's belief in Scottie Barnes to get better going forward, so I don't necessarily agree with that. However, caveat to this, if it's Giannis, like a couple people say here, Strahin Jagov, I'm sorry if I said that wrong. I like Scottie, but I'm making that trade in a heartbeat. Anyone who says otherwise is crazy. We also have one from Rick Pimente. Says, unfortunately, if this trade happens, Scottie has to be involved. Giannis needs shooters around him. Can't have Scottie. Yak and Giannis on the floor. Plus, they play same position. Barnes and Giannis play same position. Only makes sense. I'm a big Scottie fan, but Giannis is one of those guys you can't pass up on if you can actually make the deal happen. So, yeah, I'm not, like, pushing this trade, Scottie Barnes. I've been, like, I think higher up on Scottie Barnes than the majority of this fan base. I'm trying to defend him in a lot of instances when I do videos on the channel. But, yeah, if it's Giannis, then a lot of things certainly change, because that's just a player that's maybe worth making that risk. And there's actually a really good comment here from Shannon Ferguson, who kind of opens up my eyes a little bit to this trade, where I was kind of like, yeah, you probably have to do it if it's Barnes, but this kind of sold me a little bit. So Shannon Ferguson 3029 says, I don't agree. Toronto will never get more value out of Scottie Barnes than trading him for Giannis. Yeah, it kind of is eye-opening, like, thinking about it in that way. Will the Raptors ever get the value out of Barnes than they would get out of making a trade with him for Giannis? Obviously, it's a very hypothetical situation. As I said in every video I've talked about this, I don't think it will happen. I don't think the Bucks will trade Giannis. If they do trade him, it is still unlikely that he would end up with the Raptors. But yeah, in those instances, you know, thinking from an expected value standpoint, that laid it out pretty well. Will the Raptors ever get that same Giannis value out of Barnes? Maybe they will, but maybe they won't. So it's a complicated endeavor for sure. On the topic of this, people are wondering why Giannis would come if the Raptors are trading Barnes to get him. Well, Swiss from the 5996 says, why would Giannis want to come here without Scottie? Everyone else keeps their best players in these trades, which is a bit of a fair comment for sure. And Gregory, one of our amazing members with the lovely 12-month badge, shout out to Gregory, says, I agree, Giannis wants to play with Scottie. He wants a championship. We have all our draft picks. Think we can get this over if Toronto is his choice. So, if Toronto is his choice, we can do this without Barnes. But, like, on the topic of why would Giannis want to come to the Raptors if Scottie's going the other way, well, the reason would be Brandon Ingram. And Brandon Ingram is such a fantastic fit next to Giannis. We talked about it in last week's video, where we compare Brandon Ingram's archetype to Chris Middleton, how successful that duo was with the Milwaukee Bucks. Could we repeat that with Brandon Ingram? Maybe like a better version even, perhaps, of Chris Middleton and Brandon Ingram. So that makes sense to me. Ultimately, like, I can see it working trading Scottie for Giannis. I can see it working keeping Scottie and trading for Giannis. But interesting points here. But I still think there would be a desire to play here, even if it is Scottie Barnes going the other way. But enough on that topic. Let's go to the video I did about Immanuel Quickley. So Few comments like this, which I need to address. First of all, Garth Levi 8275 says, Raptors fans are not worried, only you. Don't do that. So I made a video about Immanuel Quickley saying Raptors fans are worried about Immanuel Quickley because, listen, I stream for like 80% of Raptors games. I do videos 2 to 3 times a week. I follow a lot of media like through Twitter. I see a lot of the community through Reddit. I see a lot of it through Discord. Like, I am very in tune with the Raptors fan base. I titled a video saying Raptors fans are worried about Immanuel Quickley because they are. Like, I've seen it, and I've seen it for the last 4 or 5 months. So to suggest that nobody's worried is crazy. And there's like an even worse one here. It says the Mo piece. I think someone's running out of content because no one is worried. Only you, dude. These comments annoy me beyond belief because I'm not worried. That was the entire point of the video. So it's very frustrating to me when I put a lot of work into making a video and people come in and complain in the comments who have very clearly, obviously, these two users, have not even watched the video. They've clicked on it, they've commented, and they've left. Because if you watch the video, very early on, I made it clear I'm not the one who's worried. I'm trying to convince you that you should not be worried. You know, there's a complicated part of creating content for YouTube, and it's titles and it's thumbnails. And it's creating a title that is attractive enough for somebody to want to watch it while still keeping the focus of the video on that topic. People called it a clickbait title. I disagree here. Raptors fans are worried about Immanuel Quickley. Now, like, what would be the version of that title that would be considered not clickbait? Would it be some of the Raptors fan base is a little bit concerned about Immanuel Quickley's play? In this video, I discuss whether or not they should be worried. Like, that's not a title that people are going to click on. What I've found in the 5 years of creating content for YouTube is in the thumbnail, you don't want to ask a question. You don't want to ask a 50-50 question and then they click on the video to see what your opinion on that question is. Better working titles are ones that make a statement and then the video either proves or disproves that statement. But you don't really know what you're going to get with the video. That's enticing. I don't consider that clickbait because the video was completely centered around Raptors fans being worried about Immanuel Quickley. And listen, there's a lot of these comments that said the same thing, but there's even more comments that watched the video, understood the video, enjoyed the video. And still, more than 90% of the votes on the video are likes compared to dislikes. It's just frustrating beyond belief when somebody comments on a video of mine that they literally did not watch. Like, if only there was 10 to 15 minutes of me documenting my exact thoughts on the thing that you're commenting on to actually answer. But I just wanted to address that. Look, could I make titles like, I don't think I'm clickbaiting titles. I think I'm trying to entice the viewer. I don't think I'm misleading the viewer by doing that. You can let me know if you disagree. But like, you need to have some sort of pull. And the best pull for a title I found, make a statement to start the story, introduce that statement in the video, then spend the rest of the video either proving or disproving that with opinions and facts and things I've pulled up to make an interesting video. I think that's how you tell a story. You start off with the statement and then tell the story from there. But like, if you don't see it that way, I don't know what to tell you. Next comment from Steve C74 says, Quickley's per 36 numbers in March were 26 points, 5.3 rebounds, and 7.7 assists. So this was on the same video. Thankfully, somebody actually watched the video and, hey, agrees with me. Thank you. You're allowed to disagree with me, by the way. That's completely fine. I just present my thoughts. But yeah, for Quickley, there are some things to work on for sure. But like the last month of the season in March, that was really when he had a healthy runway of games under him, and he looked like he was getting back to his best. Evidently here, some very big numbers in March. Now, albeit, in March, a lot of those games were against fellow tanking teams that were tanking even harder than the Raptors, so easier opposition. For sure, that's part of it, but those are very, very impressive numbers, and there was a big showcase that Immanuel Quickley was getting back to his best. And hey, it's not a competition between fellow Raptors teammates, but Immanuel Quickley was the best performer on the Raptors in the month of March. So his teammates, who had the same opponents to play against, were not playing as well as Immanuel Quickley was playing. So hopefully a showcase that he was getting back to his best and even getting better. But that's not all on Immanuel Quickley. I said a lot of positive things, but there are some things to work on that are important to note as well. This comment comes from the Berserkle Chemist 8598. What a name there. It says Quickley needs to improve straight up. Not only has he missed a lot of time, which could be down to Raptors management pushing him to rest. He rested a lot of games near the end of the season, but also had injuries that weren't really his fault start of the season. But he has underperformed when playing. Dribble drives, not pushing the pace. Impact much more different when he's off the bench versus starter. I know he's hungry, he's a great personality, but he has to dominate. I don't necessarily believe he has to dominate because in a lot of instances, like, that's like your third best player on the floor. Like, you know, the way Pirtle played this season, like, is that your fourth best player on the floor? So I don't think Immanuel necessarily needs to dominate, but I do agree there does need to be improvement from a point guard standpoint and the point guard's ability to manage the game. Somebody else made a similar comment and noted guys like Fred VanVleet and Kyle Lowry, their ability to be the floor general and dominate the game in that way, slow down the pace when necessary, pick up the pace when necessary. And I think some of those cues need to be developed by Immanuel Quickley a little bit as a point guard. I think some of the passing does need to improve, and I think that's something that we didn't quite get to see blossom this season because of the time missed, because of the tank. But yes, I think some of the point guard play does need to improve for Immanuel Quickley. I think this offseason, hopefully he starts the new season. Because I think a big issue with last season, he started the season injured. So he didn't get those opening games to really settle into the season. Hopefully we do get that for Quickley this season. I do think we will see improvements there. So as much as I have been a fan of Immanuel Quickley and the way he's played, yes, it does not mean he still can't get better.